Have you ever looked at trash and seen potential? What if that broken bottle, that rusty pipe, or that old garden stone could become something beautiful? This video isn't about waste, it's about wonder. You're watching Revive Nature, where discarded things find a second life. Today's episode, DIY trash garden ideas you can actually build with simple materials and bold creativity. You'll find timestamps below, skip around, save what speaks to you. And if something sparks your curiosity, drop a comment. I read them all. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind every video is a real story, and a real family. Your support keeps this dream alive. Like, comment, and if you feel something here, hit subscribe. It means more than you know. In a quiet corner of a tiny yard, where the wind plays gently with the leaves and the air smells like rosemary and damp soil, a line of soft, sea-colored waves curls along the garden path. But look closer, and you'll see, these waves aren't water, they are bottles, old and forgotten, now reborn with purpose and charm. Each bottle has been shaped, painted, and nestled into the earth with care. Their translucent blues and whites mimic the ocean's dance, gentle swells and foam-tipped crests captured in glass and plastic. From a distance, they seem to ripple, especially when the light of the late afternoon glows warm across the edges. These bottle waves serve not only as borders but as storytellers. They whisper of summer days by the sea, of driftwood and seashells collected in pockets, of laughter echoing between rocks. Placed alongside blooming chrysanthemums in deep rust and golden tones, with Japanese anemones swaying softly nearby, they offer contrast, cool marine tones against the fire of fall flowers. Nearby, a sedum autumn joy, now in full blush, leans toward the edging as if curious about its origin. A child's painted handprint remains faintly on one of the bottles, a reminder that these treasures were once trash, now transformed by imagination and time. This garden doesn't demand space. It thrives in the narrow margins, the leftover strips beside fences, along patios, behind sheds. And in those small places, it builds magic. The bottle wave edging becomes a boundary, a frame, and an invitation to stop, to smile, and to dream. Placed near a rustic bench, where one might rest with a book or a warm mug in hand, the whole scene feels like a coastal escape, minus the ocean. A moment of peace, handmade with love, color, and upcycled care. This is the soul of the tiny seascape garden, a place where the past is reimagined, where waste is art, and where the waves always stay, painted in bottle blue. There is a kind of hush that settles when the sun begins to dip behind the rooftop, casting long shadows over the garden's edge. In this golden hour, the stone lanterns come to life, not with fire, but with memory and quiet warmth. They were once forgotten fragments, old paving stones, leftover concrete blocks, and chipped bricks. But now, they rise like sentinels beside the narrow path, stacked carefully and crowned with soft, solar glows that awaken as twilight nears. Their forms are imperfect, but in that imperfection lies beauty, the kind only time and intention can sculpt. This is the lantern path, a ribbon of calm that winds through a small backyard haven. And framing this path, in wild defiance of neat rows, are the marigolds. They glow not from within but from their very petals, bursting in fiery shades of amber and gold. The warmth of their color echoes the lantern light, as if the earth itself is holding candles. Between them, chrysanthemums bloom, grounded and full, while sedum leans in with its rosy clusters. The Japanese anemone dances on the breeze like garden spirits keeping watch. This is not a grand garden. It is modest, compact, nestled between a fence and the back patio. Yet, when you step onto this path, space becomes irrelevant. You are carried by light, color, and quiet intention. The lanterns are handmade. No two are alike. Some lean slightly. Others are perfectly balanced. A child once painted tiny mushrooms on one. Another holds a pebble with a heart shape found at the beach. These details are subtle, easily missed if you're rushing. But if you walk slowly, barefoot perhaps, you'll feel the serenity it offers. A garden is not just a space, it is a conversation with nature, with time, with ourselves. This stone lantern path speaks in whispers. It tells of renewal, of using what's left behind, and of giving glow to even the heaviest things. And when night fully falls, and the lanterns glow against a blanket of stars, the garden is not dark, it is alive. Alive with warmth, with marigold fire, and with the simple magic of stone and light. Tucked in the forgotten corner of a cottage garden, where shadows dance gently under a pergola, the soft murmur of water begins. It flows not from a marble fountain, nor a store-bought pump, but from an old kendi, its body painted in shades of sunrise and spring. This is no ordinary vessel. Once left chipped and dull in a kitchen corner, the clay pot has been revived with strokes of pastel magic, pale mint, whispering rose, a kiss of lavender. The water spills from its spout as if whispering old lullabies to the garden, the melody barely louder than the flutter of butterfly wings. Around the fountain, the garden listens. Chrysanthemums bloom in hushed rust and lemon tones, while sedum leans in like a curious friend. Asters stretch toward the kendi, as if drawn to its soft-colored soul. The kendi stands on a bed of smooth river stones, its base cooled by the gentle splash of water. Ivy wraps softly around its neck, not to choke but to adorn. From above, trailing vines kiss the air, while a nearby bamboo trellis frames the whole scene like a painting. This fountain does not roar. It trickles. It breathes. It invites quiet, the kind that makes you forget to check your phone, the kind that makes you listen for birdsong or the shifting wind. Children who visit often ask, "Is there magic in that jug?" And perhaps there is. Because this old clay pot, once considered trash, has become the heart of a secret sanctuary, a place of peace and pastel dreams. Even the air feels softer here. Even time slows down. In the world of recycled gardens, where art and intention meet, this kendi fountain reminds us, beauty isn't found in what something was. It's found in what it can become. And in this tiny garden corner, surrounded by blooms and breeze, the kendi becomes more than a vessel. It becomes a prayer poured gently into the earth. Once upon a fence line, where most would see a space to simply mark borders, someone saw a canvas for memories. And so began the transformation, not with nails and bricks, but with doors. Old doors. Forgotten doors. Weathered by years, each with its own story to tell. There's something poetic about standing in a garden and seeing a door where there's no house. Painted in shades of sage and pale blue, chipped in just the right places, these doors now stand side by side, forming a rustic fence that hums with character. One was once a kitchen door, another perhaps a child's bedroom. Their knobs remain, rusted but proud. And now, flower pots dangle from their frames, marigolds burst like captured suns, while asters arch gracefully in lavender blues. Ivy curls along the top, as if trying to peek over and see what lies beyond. The ground below is softened by mulch and edged with chrysanthemums, their petals full and unafraid of the coming chill. Behind the doors, bamboo fencing peeks through, offering privacy without hiding the charm. There is no uniformity here, and that is the magic. Each door has its own texture, its own tale. One still holds an old keyhole. Another bears faded paint marks, perhaps a child's height once recorded year by year. Visitors stop and stare. Some smile in recognition, others take photos. All feel something, nostalgia, perhaps, or a gentle tug toward imagination. Because a door in a garden suggests something more, a secret, a beginning, a welcome. In the golden afternoon light, the recycled doors glow. Their imperfections sing. They do not match, but they belong. This is not just a fence. It is an invitation to create from what's left behind, to see beauty in the broken, to let gardens tell stories not only through what grows, but through what surrounds it. Here in this backyard, among the blossoms and the breeze, old doors open new possibilities. Not to enter a room, but to enter wonder. There's a certain rhythm to a well-loved garden, the gentle crunch of stepping stones, the way sunlight filters through wooden beams, and the soft clinking of wind-brushed bamboo. Along a narrow pergola walkway, two unexpected materials come together in harmony, bamboo and bottles. Each step is guided by a playful dance of texture and color. Thin stalks of bamboo, smooth and golden, rise from the soil like sentinels of serenity. Between them, old bottles, once vessels for water or wine, stand proud, now reborn as sparkling garden accents. Their colors shimmer, sea glass green, deep amber, soft cobalt. Together, they form a border that is both natural and delightfully unexpected. Above, the pergola breathes. Its wooden beams cradle climbing vines, honeysuckle, clematis, or perhaps morning glory, trailing soft shadows onto the path below. Dangling from the beams, tiny solar lights begin to glow as dusk approaches, echoing the quiet brilliance of the glass below. Around this walkway, life blooms. Marigolds flare in gold and orange. Chrysanthemums add depth with plum and rust petals. Asters and sedum line the edge, catching the light like jewels tucked into the soil. The garden smells of damp earth, crushed herbs, and late-blooming blossoms. This path doesn't lead to a grand destination. It simply invites you to pause under the shelter of wood and vine, to admire the way something humble, a bamboo stick, a tossed bottle, can become art when placed with care. There's peace here, in the contrast. The rustic bamboo with its warm tones beside the cool, slick shimmer of glass. Nature and refuse, old and new, straight and curved, all coming together to guide your footsteps through a space that feels quietly sacred. In the countries where garden space is a gift, from the English countryside to suburban patios in Melbourne or Oregon, such walkways offer more than structure. They offer story, a tale of transformation, a path lined with intention. And when night falls, and the pergola glows softly, and the bottles catch moonlight like little lighthouses, you'll know, even trash, when loved and placed well, can lead us somewhere beautiful. Sometimes, the smallest corners hold the greatest potential. A forgotten nook in the patio, a shadowed spot by the garden gate, a narrow space near the kitchen wall, all become stages for creativity when touched by color, shape, and story. Here stand the totems, towers of expression made not from stone or wood, but from something far more ordinary, parallon. Discarded PVC pipes, once hidden underground or behind walls, now rise like vertical sculptures. They are stacked with care, some tall, some modest, all painted with joyful defiance. Bright swirls of coral meet bands of teal. Patterns of leaves and petals wind around each segment, hand-painted with patience. Each totem feels alive, like a character standing watch in the garden. Within the openings of some pipes, small treasures bloom, a pot of marigolds, a sprig of lavender, or even a tiny fern trailing like green lace. This isn't just decor. It's elevation, quite literally. In small patios where floor space is precious, these totems grow upward. They bring height, color, and movement to blank walls and dull corners. And they spark curiosity. Guests ask, "What are these made of?" And when they learn the answer, their eyes widen with inspiration. Surrounding the totems, the garden breathes. Chrysanthemums sway in the breeze, their bold colors echoing the paint. Japanese anemones add softness, dancing like silk. Sedum clusters nestle at the base, grounding the vertical energy. The backdrop is humble, a whitewashed fence, terracotta tiles warmed by the sun. But with the totems in place, the space becomes a gallery. A celebration of upcycling, of thinking differently, of seeing beyond the original use. And perhaps, more than anything, the totems stand as reminders. That beauty isn't always found in perfection or in what's new. Sometimes it lives in what we save, what we shape, and what we dare to color. In a world of endless waste, these PVC towers rise as quiet rebellions, artful, joyful, and proudly handmade. They don't shout, but they shine. And in the heart of a small patio, they tell their story, one vibrant ring at a time. Nestled in the quiet corner of a garden where time seems to slow, a subtle mosaic catches the eye, not loud in color, but rich in presence. It curves like a whispered thought, tracing the line between gravel and green. At first glance, it seems carved by nature. But look again, and you'll find its pieces are remnants, shards of tile, broken concrete, fractured stones once destined for landfills. This is the art of the trash mosaic, a composition of chaos turned calm. Each piece has been chosen not for perfection, but for its imperfection. The edge, once jagged, now fits into a greater whole. They are laid by hand, curved like waves, spiraling like old Zen ink strokes. The pattern isn't forced, it flows, like water. Surrounding it, the garden breathes in balance. Japanese anemones sway gently in pink and white, adding a lightness to the grounded stone. Chrysanthemums anchor the palette in earthy gold and maroon. Marigolds offer pops of warmth, glowing under the soft light of morning. The sound is still. Gravel crunches softly underfoot. Somewhere nearby, water trickles, unseen, but felt. The mosaic edging doesn't scream for attention. It serves. It frames. It honors the plants beside it, and the silence between them. A small stone lantern guards the path's end. Behind it, bamboo fencing weaves a quiet rhythm. The air is cool, the shadows long. This isn't a garden to rush through. It's one to sit within, to notice how waste can become wonder. The creator of this space didn't buy new. They collected. They repurposed. They saw story in what others discarded. A blue shard from an old bathroom tile now glows beside a matte gray hunk of broken concrete. Their contrast sings in harmony. This Japanese garden nook is not grand. It's intentional. The mosaic edge holds space, not just physically, but spiritually. It's a reminder that beauty often emerges not from starting fresh, but from starting again. Here, trash has become tradition. Stones have found rhythm. And those who walk this path leave lighter, as if the mosaic, in all its flawed unity, has quietly mended something within. There's a soft clinking in the air, glass tapping glass in a gentle breeze, and it draws you in. Hanging from the beams of an old white gazebo, a garland of tiny bottles dances in the sunlight, their pastel colors glowing like candy under the sky. Each bottle was once tossed aside, a soda container, a vinegar flask, a syrup jar. Now, they've become jewels of the garden, hand-painted in shades of lilac, rose, mint, and soft lemon. Some have tiny daisies painted on their sides. Others carry swirling patterns like summer dresses. All are threaded with twine and knotted lovingly, spaced between sprigs of dried lavender and ribbons made from burlap scraps. This isn't just decor. It's celebration. The bottle garland hums with joy, turning the backyard gazebo into a stage for memories. Tea parties, slow afternoons, laughter among blooming asters and marigolds, the kind of beauty that doesn't announce itself, but lingers in the heart. Around the gazebo, the garden leans in. Chrysanthemums line the paths, heavy with blooms. Sedum glows in rosy clusters. Japanese anemones peek from shaded corners, their petals lifting like gentle applause. The air smells of warm earth, autumn blossoms, and something sweet, perhaps apple cake cooling on a nearby table. Visitors who pass beneath the garland smile. Children reach out to touch the painted bottles. The wind joins in, setting the glass to sing. It's music made from what was once discarded. And that's the secret of this space, not just its charm, but its transformation. It shows what can be made when we choose to see potential in the thrown away. A garden isn't just soil and plants. It's emotion. It's story. It's the echo of hands that painted, tied, and imagined something new. When evening falls, and the sun slips behind the fence, the bottles catch the last light like captured dreams. The garland doesn't need to sparkle. It glows quietly, enough to make someone stop and think, maybe I could make something like that. And that's the point. The cutest garland in the garden isn't just decoration. It's an invitation to create, to celebrate, and to fall in love with simple things again. In a garden where each step feels like a chapter in a storybook, there stands a doorway, not to a house, but to a feeling. Its frame is made of old doors, once tired and unused, now painted softly in pale greens and creams. They lean gently toward each other, holding hands through a wooden beam that forms the arch. But it's what hangs from above that catches the breath. Wooden crates, weathered but strong, dangle like baskets of celebration. Each one cradles bursts of bloom, golden marigolds tumbling like confetti, asters rising in quiet lavender, and Japanese anemones trailing softly down like silk. The arch is not grand, yet it feels important. It marks the passage between the patio and the heart of the garden. Passing beneath it is like stepping into intention. The scent changes. The light shifts. The mood becomes softer. Beneath your feet, gravel crunches. Around you, chrysanthemums smile in rust and honey tones. A sedum cluster leans into the sunlight. And from the crates above, ivy drapes downward, trying to kiss the ground. The doors still bear the signs of their former lives, a keyhole here, a cracked panel there. But instead of hiding those marks, they've been embraced. Small details have been added, a dragonfly knob, a painted quote, "Bloom where you're planted." These touches don't just decorate. They tell you who made this, someone who loves both the old and the new, the worn and the blooming. The arch becomes more than structure. It becomes transition, from what was, to what is possible. It frames not just flowers, but moments. A quiet conversation. A morning coffee. A child racing through barefoot, laughing. And when evening falls, and the garden glows golden, the crates above sway gently in the breeze. Shadows dance on the doors. And for just a second, the arch feels alive, like it's breathing with the rest of the garden. This isn't just upcycling. It's storytelling through space. It's giving new roots to forgotten things. And in a tiny garden where every inch counts, this old door arch opens not just a path, but the imagination. There's a quiet elegance in the front yard, not loud or showy, but slow and soulful. It draws the eye gently toward the edge of the garden bed, where a line of candy jars rests like a poem written in clay. Each one is different. Some are rounded, others slender. Their surfaces where the years proudly scratches, faded glaze, small chips like fingerprints of time. They're stacked in gentle angles, partly sunken into the earth for balance, partly lifted like dancers in mid-turn. Some candy lean forward, as if offering their contents to the soil. From their open mouths spill green ivy and blooms, golden marigolds tumble downward, chrysanthemums bloom like stories, and sedum peeks from the shadows like soft secrets. These jars, once carriers of water and spice, now pour out beauty. Their presence is grounding, earthy, timeless. This border doesn't just separate lawn from flower, it connects history with hope. Where most would see a line to divide, here stands a line to inspire. The colors are soft, terracotta, sage, muted ocean blue. Each kendi has been lightly whitewashed or hand-painted in delicate patterns, vines, dots, brush strokes left intentionally uneven. The result is imperfect harmony, the kind that only hands and heart can make. Children love to follow the line, running their fingers across the jars. Guests slow down as they approach, taking in the way the pots guide their path. And in early morning light, when dew settles on the lips of the jars and the flowers catch the sun, it feels like the garden itself is smiling. Behind the border, Japanese anemones dance, light and airy. Grasses sway in rhythm. A white cottage wall glows gently in the background, windows open to birdsong and breeze. This is a garden made not from wealth, but from wisdom, the wisdom of reuse, of letting the past live again in bloom. And in this simple line of stacked kendi, there is serenity. A piece that says, everything has a place. Even what was once forgotten.